Hello, this is user PhD21 from the Linux Mint forums. One of the questions that pops up frequently on the Linux Mint forums, especially for people that are coming from Microsoft Windows or Mac and switching to Linux Mint for the first time, is how to view images and edit images, and one of the users said that they use this frequently for uploading images to their eBay account, but obviously you can use that for many different purposes, and they were used to using XnView, which is a really popular image browser and basic image editor in Microsoft Windows. And there are numerous image browsers and with built-in image editing functions, and a whole lot of image editors, including GIMP. And this particular tutorial is on how to crop and scale images using XnViewMP image browser, the Pix image browser, and Kolourpaint image editor. I think the XnViewMP application, which is cross-platform, runs on Windows, Mac, and Linux, is very similar to XnView. But some of the people thought it was more complicated because the initial, when you first install it and it comes up, it's busy. It's got a lot of different things on the screen. But it's actually very simple to use, simple to install, simple to use, especially for cropping or scaling images or converting them from one format like JPEG to PNG or different image. Very versatile. So there seemed to be some confusion over that, so that's why I've created this. I'm creating this tutorial. If you go to I happen to be using Linux Mint 18.3, the KDE version, but this would apply to all of them. There's Linux Mint Cinnamon, Linux Mint Mate, Linux Mint XFCE, and Linux Mint KDE. And although they are not producing the KDE version, the Linux Mint KDE version anymore, you can still install the KDE desktop on that. Well, that's what I use, and but these instructions will work on any of them. Anyway, if you go to Google search and you just type in XnViewMP and do a search, it'll come back, and the very first item usually is the XnView website. You just click on that link, it pops up their website. XnViewMP, the best photo viewer, image resizer, and batch converter. And it's a really good one. In Linux, to install this, you just scroll down until you see the various downloads options, and there's a whole bunch of them for Windows, Mac, and Linux. Linux users You look on the right, it says Linux. Linux Mint users want to use the deb file. If you've got a 32-bit computer, download the 32-bit file. If you've got a 64-bit computer, which most people have, click the Linux deb 64-bit. It's going to come up and say download the file. And I happen to be using a Chrome-based browser called SlimJet. And say click download. It doesn't take very long. Now I download everything to my downloads folder, like most people do. Now, if you bring up your file manager, which every version of Linux Mint has a file manager. In KDE, it's Dolphin. In Cinnamon, it's Nemo or Files. In Mate, I think it's Kaja. And on XFCE, it's called Thunar. Anyway, they all work very similar. It's a file manager. Anyway, and if you go to your downloads folder, I have a lot of downloads. Scroll to where you downloaded the XnViewMP file and just double click it. It'll come up. Now in my case I already have this installed. So, but so it knows that. But anyway, you would just click install, enter in your password, and when it's finished, close the installer. Then of course it'll be in your menu. In my system, it shows up under graphics. I have a lot of various graphic image processing programs, and it shows up right there. Now I already have this up and running, so I'm going to click that. Now, obviously you can make it full screen, or right now I don't have it full screen. I'm going to make it a little bit wider though. Now when it first comes up, it's got a what some people call busy screen, and to some people it looks complicated, but it's very configurable. The user can change it in many different ways. There's a file browser on the upper left side, and then it shows the contents of whatever is in a folder on the upper right side, which is adjustable. You can select different views. Right now it's on thumbnails with labels, but you can have thumbnail with file names, thumbnail with details. You can select icons, list, details, typical file manager stuff. You can also adjust the size of the thumbnails by this slider up here, which is handy. Okay. There's a preview box at the bottom for any image it happens to currently be on. There's a category box on the lower left, which you don't really have to have, and there's an info box on the right with various information. And it depends on the type of user you are. I mean, if you're a photographer, you're going to want a lot of information. But if, in this case, the user is just wants to be able to simply view the images, pick an image, and edit that image, basic editing. Cropping means selecting just a portion of the image, and then scaling it means you're going to reduce this. It's the same as resizing or scaling. Usually to shrink an image. Images don't do well trying to increase their sizes, but you can shrink them very, very easily. Now, XnViewMP if you click on View in the toolbar, has many different layouts that should suit any user. If you want it to be more simplistic than what it, or less busy than what it is here, pick a different layout. I can close these different category, these different windows that are here. I can click View and I can pick them. It shows different options here. I can pick different themes, by the way, dark themes, light themes. Right now, the default layout is called Free. I'm assuming that stands for Freestyle Layout, meaning that the user can customize it. But I could pick layout number 1. And that's only showing 3 windows. All these windows are resizable, by the way. Very simply, you can resize them. Left and right, up and down. There's an option that some people might, a layout option called Film Strip. Okay, now when you click that, it shows up to it adjusts the screen to the right, on my system anyway. So I'm just going to drag that back over. Okay, and basically it's a linear, just one line with all the images in this particular folder as like a film strip, and I could scroll that way. And you can use your mouse in the wheel to scroll back and forth, and then it's got information right underneath it. There's a different one called Film Strip 2. Same thing. Now I have to adjust the screen a little bit, so I slide that back over here. The only difference is the information is on top and the images are below that. But as you can see, there's the layouts. There's 8 different generic layouts. There's 2 different film strip layouts, and then of course the original one, which is the freestyle one. If the freestyle one's too busy or seems too complicated, change it or pick one of the other layouts. I just picked layout 7. That's pretty simple. It's got the file manager on the left, all the folders, in your home folder. It shows the contents of the folder in the middle, and then on the right it's got categories. But it also has, if you look, there's a preview button, there's an info button, so you can click those. It's very versatile. So you can pretty much make the user interface whatever you want. You just have to try it. If you thought the original freestyle layout was too much, well, then adjust it. It's simple to do, and then from then on it'll be whatever you selected. You can also sort the images in various different ways, including the dates the images were created. As you can see here, you can sort by, and that's pretty impressive too. You can filter them, you can rate them, give them tags, whatever. But now that I've shown you how to adjust the interface, basically, if you wanted to crop and scale images using XnViewMP, you just browse on the left side using your folder. I'm going to go back to the original layout, freestyle one, and I can adjust the. I'm going to move the preview to the middle because I prefer it in the middle. I don't care about the categories thing, so I'm just going to remove that by clicking the X on that window. So now I've got my preview and just an info. And if I didn't want the information screen, I could just X that out too. There's a category filter thing here. I don't want to. And there's a favorites. If you want that, leave it there. If not, get rid of it. So now I've adjusted it the way I want it. Now, all you got to do is browse to wherever your images are, and then click the folder that has the images, and let's say I want to pick an image. Gives me some information, but now I want to crop or scale or edit the image in some way. All you got to do is double click it. It creates a new tab for that image. I still have the browser tab going. Creates a new tab. Pardon me. And now you have image editing tools. Okay. Now you can also have various options for fitting the image to the window, your desktop window of it's by default on fit image to window, which is a good way to be. Now let's say I just wanted a portion of this. All I got to do, up at the top, if you let the mouse drift over the icons, you can see what they do. There's a there's a crop and resize button right there. Now you can also edit the toolbar. You can get customized toolbar. I like to have this export. There's an export function, but it's not part of the toolbar, so I add that. And I've already added it to this, but it was on the left. It's on the left side here, and all you gotta do is click an option here, and then click the button, this button here, and it adds it to the right side, and then you can move it, where you want it. You can also select larger icons if these icons are on the toolbar too small. You can click large icons. You'll have to restart XnViewMP, but that may appeal to some users. Okay, now I've selected an image. I want to crop it. I hit the cropping tool. Now you can see here it's got a new toolbar popped up, including a cancel button if I don't want to do that. It's on free, but there are many options here. There's free, fixed ratio. You can see a whole bunch of different options here. If you just leave it on free, that's fine too. And you just click where you want to start and hold it down and just drag it to select an area. And then you can just click crop, save the selection, crop, save, and go to the next image. But because I also want to scale this, which means I want to shrink it usually, I'm going to click crop. Okay. That's how simple that was. And now here's just the cropped image. But I also want to scale this image. Now, or resize. Resize and scale are similar. Okay. So I click the resize button. There are different ways to resize and scale images. Some images are huge. They're very large, and they're not. They can be megabytes, many megabytes for that matter, and very high resolution images. And if you're going to upload that or to a website, or you're going to email it to somebody, they don't necessarily have to have a 24 megabyte image. It'll still look great at 3 megabytes. But anyway, or you may be uploading it to a website or a forum website where they have restrictions. They only allow images of a certain size. In this case, like the Linux Mint forum, if you want to upload an image directly to the Linux Mint forum, it's got to be less than 200 kilobytes. And that's pretty small for most screenshots or images and stuff like that too. So you may have to crop the image or at least resize it or scale it. Now, you can resize it by dimension, which is more difficult, or you can click the mode button and select size with the percent symbol and select percentage. I always do the percentage, and then you can double click it to highlight that and select, let's say 80%. You want to keep it's on keep ratio, which means you always want to have that on usually. And then you just click OK. Now it reduced it scaled, resized this image to 80% of the original. And you can see down here what it did. Now if I can select undo, now now it says it's a ping image and it's 5.54 megabytes. 838 by 788 is the dimensions after I resized it. Originally it was 5.54 megabytes, but it was 1048 by 985. And then I resized it. Okay. Then all you got to do is click the save button, and it automatically pops up, and you can select the same format or a different format. In this case, it's selecting a JPEG format, which will also reduce the size. JPEGs are usually smaller than PNG images, and you can just add, you can change the name a little bit to note that it's been edited. You could just add a number like 2 or edit. You could pick a different format. Look at all the different formats that are available. Okay, in this case, I'm using the JPEG format. And then just click Save. That's it. Pardon me. That's how simple it is to edit, to crop and resize and save an image using XnViewMP. And because it's on the toolbar, you don't have to hunt for the keys. Now another feature it has is the export option. And that's pretty cool. It's got its own preview before and after. You would have to experiment with that. It's to learn more about that. It's worth exploring though, and it's a great feature. Like right now, this image, it shows you the size there. But I could say, okay, I want to reduce. Right now, it's a JPEG image, and I could reduce it to 60. And you click auto refresh there, and I can tell by size if I've reached a certain size that I want to get to. I reduced the JPEG compression, what they call quality compression, to 60, and now it's down. It went from 175 kilobytes to 113. That's pretty handy. And then I could just click export, and there's various different formats: GIF, PNG, TIFF. So instead of you can either just save the image or export it. It's up to what you want to do. Now I'm finished that image. Okay, I just close that image tab, and then I can pick the next image and do the same thing. Click crop. Okay, the crop pops up. I can pick what I want. Select crop. There's the cropped image, and then I can scale it percent-wise. Let's just pick a percentage. I usually use 80%, but you can pick whatever, and click OK, and then save it. So it's pretty quick and very easy to use XnViewMP to browse your images, certainly to crop and save the images, but you can do so much more. I just barely scratched the surface of what this excellent application can do. Okay, now that's XnViewMP. Now another one that the Linux Mint developers, I think the Linux Mint developers created, is called Pix. And it might be in your menus already. If not, you can go to the Synaptic Package Manager of Linux Mint 18 or 19, the newer versions, and install it from there. And it'll show up in your menus under graphics usually. as pics. And I already have that up and running. And it also, it's an image browser, but it can also do editing. And you browse to, in the upper left is a file manager browser. You pick the folder where your images are, like pictures, and in this case I'm using tropical images, so it's under a tropical folder. Pick an image, okay, gives you some information in the lower left, properties information. And if I want to edit that image, I can either double click it, or I can click edit the file in the upper right. Now if I double click it, it switches the layout a little bit, and all the images in that folder become sort of like a vertical film strip on the left side. The image you're working with pops up, and there's basic editing functions on the right, the most common ones. And again, there's a crop and a resize. There's rotate. There's other cool features in here. But okay, so let's say you want to crop the image. So you click crop, and it pops up with a grid already, which can be adjust. You can adjust the cropping option. You can select the aspect ratios if you want to. Personally, I believe there's grid options. I don't understand all of these options myself, but you can certainly experiment with that. But you can just move the grid. You can click and hold the mouse and just move the grid. Now let's say I just want this one palm tree. Okay, well, I can just go down here and that one coconut there. Okay, you can see I've highlighted just the area I want to keep, and then I hit crop, and there it is. But now I want to resize it or scale it. Click resize or scale. Again, on the right side, whatever function you chose, it has a function window, in this case resize or scaling. It's already on %, but again, you could choose pixels if you wanted to actually put in the dimensions. It's easier to use a percentage. It apparently has remembered what I've used before, because I usually use 80%, and it's already got high quality selected, and then all I gotta do is hit OK, and then I can click save or save as. If you I don't know if save will overwrite the existing image, so I'm going to click save as, and again change the name to reflect that you've edited it. You can just add a different number, or just put the word edit afterwards, and then just click save. In this case, it converted, it's a JPEG image. It's asking me, do I want to keep the same quality? I could adjust the quality. There's other options, optimize, progressive. The defaults are usually good enough. I'm going to click OK. That's it. Now, to go back to the browser, I can now scroll through the images in this, or I can just click the toolbar button up in the upper left to go back to the browser. And I could do this, and then just pick a different image. And do the same thing. Click crop, move it where I want. Let's say I just want that. Click crop. Okay, then I can resize it. And it remembered, my percentages, and so I could just click OK, and save as, or if I click save, if I hit save, it's going to edit the image, overwrite the existing one. You might want to always click save as on that. Anyway, and then go back to the browser. So that's how easy it is to use the Pix image viewer program to view your images and do basic editing functions. And another option that is there are many different applications for handling, for processing images, a lot. In fact, I've got most of them installed, and if the file manager in Linux Mint in KDE is called Dolphin, but all the file managers have a right-click option, and every type of file, whether it's an image file, music file, video file, can have default applications set, so that if I double-click an image, whatever application I choose as there's already one set. If you double-click an image, whatever default app, any file for that matter, whatever default application for that file type is going to pop up. But you can change that. One of the image editing programs that I like, GIMP, is a professional quality image editing program. It's usually installed in all Linux systems. On my system, on my older computer system, it could take quite a while for that to come up, because it loads a whole bunch of plugins and stuff like that too. It's a great image editor. But if I want to do quick editing, there are other programs available that can do that. One of my favorites is called Kolourpaint with a K. And I always make that my default in my system. That's a very simple image editor, very capable, simple image editor. I do have GIMP second, but as you can see, I've got at least 20 or 30 different image processing type programs, from image browsers to image editing programs and stuff like that, and there's actually more. And I can choose whichever one I want. But by default, the first one is considered the default application. So that would come up, and I'll show you that. If I double-click a PNG image or a JPEG image, it's automatically going to pop up with Kolourpaint on my system. And you can change that. If you right-click a file and you go to Properties, you can click File Type Options, and it will show you a window pops up, and it gives me all the programs it knows are associated with that type of image file, and I can adjust which ones show up and in which order. In KDE Dolphin File Manager, the very first item is going to be the default application. But I can add, if there's a program that's not on here, but I want it to be on there, I can click the Add button and browse to install any installed program. Will show, I can add that, and I can tell it, these are the applications that show up when I right-click an image, and I can pick and choose what they are. That works in other file managers like Linux Mint Cinnamon uses the Nemo file manager. It's just called Files on your system, but it's called, it's called Nemo. It also has a preview. You can see images, and it's adjustable. You can adjust it. Now, I happen to be in a detailed view, what they call details, list view, because I like to know how big the images are, what kind they are. But and I could always pick the icon view, and which allows you to see images a little bit better, and I can adjust the size. Some people might prefer that. I prefer the more detailed view, but that's up to you. But anyway, the same thing. It's a file manager. If I right-click that and I go to Properties, okay, there's various options. Including, open with. And I have set it to Kolourpaint. Here's recommended applications listed, although I could add to that list. type in a command. And I chose Kolourpaint, but you know, Pinta is another simple to use image editor that a lot of people like. But Kolourpaint comes up almost instantly, and is very simple to use, and I'm going to show you how to use that in a moment. But I can just pick an application, click it, and then set as default in that file manager. But I already have it set as the default. Okay, now, so regardless of what file manager you're using, usually you can tell it what application you want to show up for what kind of image. If for, you know, you may have to set it for, you know, one time for each different file type, you know. Like now I'm going to check a ping image, and I'm going to click open with, but I've already done it, and it's set for Kolourpaint. But once you've done that, from then on, it's going to know. Then you could just double click an image, and whatever the default program is going to pop up. Now this is called Kolourpaint. It's in the Synaptic Package Manager, Software Manager, and it has a lot of nice features. But it's like instantaneous when it comes up. You can view the image. If the image is larger than what you see in this work window, you can click Fit to Page. Okay. Now, let's say I want to crop something. I can just there's a lot of different features, but the basic features are I can select something. Okay, I can this button up here, the selection tool, but there's different kinds of selection tools. In this case, it's a rectangular selection tool, and I could just highlight what I want, and I can say I can click Control T, or you know, which is the cropping, or just set the image. I can click that. I can right click and just click Set as Image, or I can click Selection, Set as Image. Boom. That's how simple it is to crop that. As far as resizing or scaling, I can hit Control E. Or I can just click Resize and Scale. Now, I know now there's different types of resizing, scale, and one of the best options that retains the best quality is called Smooth Scale. So if you have that option, you click that. You always want to keep the aspect ratio, usually. And then you can just double click on the percent and change it to what you want. I usually choose 80%, but you can adjust that, depends on your needs. And just click OK. And now it's scaled that image. And then I can just save the image as it is and overwrite the existing one, which I don't want to do. Or I can click Export, choose where I want it to go, give it a name, whatever I want to call it, you know, test image. I can select a format, all these different types of formats from, you know, I can also select different aspects like quality and stuff like that. And just click Save. And that's how easy it is to crop an image. But you can do much more. With programs like this. I mean, you can add text, you can do, you know. Anyway, so that's using Kolourpaint. Now, another tool that I like and I use quite frequently is a screen capture tool called Ksnip. It also has built-in image editing functions. And you can open up existing images. I'm just going back to the same image that I was using in the other ones, which is a tropical one. Okay. It's got various options and stuff like that. Like you can tell it to capture a screenshot. You know, I have it triggered to my print screen key. Although you could use a different key if you want to. It can also upload to different like to image or hosting website, and it's an excellent tool. But it has easy to use tools, pens, marker, rectangles, text, arrows, but it can also crop and scale. So if I want to crop something, I can click crop, a box pops up. I can adjust that box to what I want and then just hit enter. And then if I want to scale it further, I can click, I could also hit Control C, Shift C, or instead of having to click edit and then crop, I could just hit Shift C and do it. Now I want to scale it, or Shift S. And the same thing, you want to keep your aspect ratio usually, and I can choose either by pixel or by percent. I'll almost always use percent. I double click that and I just pick 80. And then I can just hit enter or click OK. And then I can save it. I have various screenshot folders and stuff like that. I can pick a name that I want. Tropical edit. But I could just change, if just by changing the file name extension. If I want it to be ping, I just change it to ping. If I want it to be GIF, I could change it to GIF. I like JPEG, so I'm leaving it as that. And that's how easy it is to do that. But this can do a whole lot more, including grabbing. Obviously, it's a great screen capture tool. As you can see, it just captured my screen. What I like about it is it's got the built-in painter functions and the ability to crop and scale all in one program. If I want to open up a different program, I can. But I like the ability to be able to pick a tool and then adjust the tool really easily. If I wanted to put an arrow, I can pick the color of the arrow, I can pick the size of the arrow, and then I can point to something, like that. I can select things with different colors. I can easily undo them or redo them. I could actually block it if I wanted to, to cover something up. I can click solid, and I can go and block it. And you can adjust the size of this. Another nice function is the number function, where you can put numbers next to different things. Now, what a unique feature of this is that what if you screw up the numbers? Well, you can reset it. Let's say I want, I want to start another one, but now I want to start with 6. Well, now I can click over here and it starts with 6. Or if I wanted to undo it, I could undo it. Undo. Most programs will leave where they left off. Like right now, it's showing 7, but I can change that. I can go back to, you know, where I wanted it to go. In this case, 3, and now I can put it there, 3. I can change the colors and the size. It's a very impressive program, and then again, I can, because most screenshots will not fit on the forum. I want to scale it. I don't necessarily have to crop it, but I do want to scale it. And in my case, 80% will usually make the screenshots small enough to fit on the forum. And then I can just save it. And it has a default folder to save stuff, but you can save it anywhere you want. And again, you can pick the different image formats. And so there's another option, Ksnip, which is a wonderful, actively maintained and developed screenshot/image editing program with built-in crop, scale, and painter functions. Anyway, I hope that was informative, and I hope everybody has a great day.